I hope you found the last session and your quiet time helpful. We now come to our final session. And having considered Jesus as our compass and as our shelter, we now consider him as our refreshment. John chapter 4, verses 5 to 18. So he came to a Samaritan city called Sychar, near the plot of ground that Jacob had given to his son Joseph. Jacob's well was there, and Jesus, tired out by his journey, was sitting by the well. It was about noon. A Samaritan woman came to draw water, and Jesus said to her, "Give me a drink." His disciples had gone to the city to buy food. The Samaritan woman said to him, "How is it that you, a Jew, ask a drink of me, a woman of Samaria? Jews do not share things in common with Samaritans." Jesus answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that is saying to you, 'Give me a drink,' you would have asked him, and he would have given you living water." The woman said to him, "Sir, you have no bucket and the well is deep. Where do you get that living water? Are you greater than our ancestor Jacob, who gave us the well, and with his sons and his flocks drank from it?" Jesus said to her, "Everyone who drinks of this water will be thirsty again, but those who drink of the water that I will give them will never be thirsty. The water that I will give will become in them a spring of water gushing up to eternal life." The woman said to him, "Sir, give me this water so that I may never be thirsty or have to keep coming here to draw water." Jesus said to her, "Go, call your husband and come back." The woman answered him, "I have no husband." Jesus said to her, "You are right in saying, 'I have no husband,' for you have had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband. What you have said is true." To put this passage into context, Jesus and his disciples were traveling from Judea to Galilee. It was a journey that could either take them through Samaria, or they could take a longer walk to avoid Samaria. Traditionally, there was a lot of animosity between Jews and Samaritans, so we could have expected them to take the longer route. However, as we know, Jesus spent a lot of his time being with people who were on the margins and who were considered to be unacceptable. So not only had he walked through the area, but his disciples had gone to find a food shop while he rested by Jacob's well, very hot and thirsty. So as Jesus is sitting there, a Samaritan woman appears. There's something of a mystery here, as there was water in the village half a mile away. So it would be strange not only for her to appear, but also for a rabbi to engage with the woman, particularly a Samaritan woman. We are made aware of this by the woman's response to Jesus when he asks her to give him a drink of water. Jesus' conversation with the woman follows a very similar pattern to that we only see in John's Gospel. In the same way that Nicodemus didn't understand what Jesus was saying when Jesus talked about being born again, so this woman first takes Jesus literally when he says he can give her living water, which she initially understood to be running water. Even when he makes a further explanation, she still doesn't understand and asks for the living water so that she doesn't have to come and draw water from the well. Eventually, after the third statement by Jesus, she understands what he's saying further on in this chapter. She recognizes Jesus as the Messiah, and she becomes a messenger of the good news to all in her village and further afield. Throughout the Old Testament, there are references to the living water. The psalmist speaks of his soul being thirsty for the living God. In Isaiah, we have the promise made to the chosen people that they would draw the water with joy from the well of salvation. There is the summons that everyone who is thirsty should come to the waters and drink freely in Isaiah chapter 55. Jeremiah complained that the people had forsaken God, who was the fountain of living waters. There are many other references, and at the heart of them is the fundamental truth that in the human heart there is a thirst for something that only Jesus can satisfy. If we think about ourselves, I wonder if you've ever been on a long walk on a hot summer's day and heard the babbling of a stream in the distance. I am fortunate that I live just below the ridgeway, and wherever I walk, I can come across several streams. There's something about the sound of bubbling water that suggests coolness, relaxation, but most of all, refreshment. It's hard to resist dangling our feet in the water and feeling the heat of the walk melt away. In some ways, food and water are very similar. Both are essential for life and for keeping us going on our journeys. The difference between water and food, however, is that water can be bathed in as well as drunk, so it gives us refreshment and the energy, both physical and spiritual, to return once more to our journey. God's encounter with the Samaritan woman shows not only his own weariness and thirst, but also that of the woman. The image I have of her is of someone so numb and bruised by life that she has no energy left to conceal anything from this stranger she meets at the well. Jesus' exhaustion is temporary and physical, whereas this woman's exhaustion is lifelong and both emotional and spiritual. It is into this context that Jesus speaks a promise of deep, eternal, lasting refreshment. Jesus offers a spring of living water that is constantly moving rather than stagnant. But this spring is internal rather than external and brings eternal rather than simple physical life. Most important of all, it provides external refreshment that we can carry with us, so we do not have to toil carrying a heavy water jar all the time. As with the other two spiritual essentials we have explored, the challenge each one of us faces is to ask ourselves whether we have accepted and packed this essential for our journey, or whether, because of distraction, busyness, or a range of other reasons, we've left this essential behind us somewhere along the way.